What up, my peeps? Yep, this is our community. One thing I learned in 20 years of competing at the highest level is that you can't do it alone. You gotta have a great team around you, great people. So that's what we're trying to build here. And the great people is you. So I had some great conversations. This should be an interesting talk today. Lots to talk about. I'm gonna start off. Karen, this is for you. I'm laughing already. This is a little aside. Like I said, it's not just about exercise and food and sleep. You got to keep putting those pieces of the puzzle together. So one of the things I've been studying lately is the breath, breathing. Most people don't breathe properly. No, I got this big nose because I breathe through it. Most people are mouth breathers, and you'll know that if you wake up with dry mouth, or you have to drink in the middle of the night, or when you get up in the morning. Breathing through the mouth is not healthy. Breathing through the nose is how you humidify the air and how you filter out toxins and environmental pollutants and all those type of things. So we're supposed to breathe through our nose. Nowadays, people talk too much. So you can't breathe through your nose and talk at the same time. And women have more ailments because, guess what? I thought it was funny. I was just listening to a podcast this morning. So I'm going to leave that one alone from here on in because I'm not the expert in relationships, as you might have known by now. Anyway, back to the topics at hand. Had a couple of conversations, speaking of community. Got off the phone just now with Patrick. Thanks for calling, Patrick. That was great. They'll talk about how he's been doing what we've been talking about, just changing your food a little bit. That alone, and I think his wife and not sure if it's his sister-in-law, can't remember, both said in a couple of days, like, where are you getting this energy from? He said, like, my energy's gone through the roof. I feel great. And that's just from a couple of days of changing a few things around, what you eat, what time you eat, little changes. This is all free stuff. As a matter of fact, the less you eat, the more you save. So when people talk to me about organic foods and how much they cost, and we'll go into that as well later. There's just so much to talk about here. It's like, well, just don't eat as much. Your food bill will be the same. Anyway, what else did we talk about today? We talked a bit about community and having people around you who are reputable. Like I said, when I was competing, I surrounded myself with the very best I could find. Basically, in the beginning of my career, I wanted to get a scholarship in the States. I was the last out of my group. I was in I think, the best era of track and field in Canada. The Scarborough Optimists, we produced more Olympians than any other group in Canada. But they all had scholarships before I did. I was the last one. But the reason I wanted a scholarship is because at the time, the best hurdlers in the world, all from America, or just the United States. So I wanted to get down there and be around them and see what they did, train with them. I eventually got a scholarship and went down there, and guess what? I went from nothing to, boom, 5th in the world. 2 years in the States. It's that simple. Surround yourself with the best, and you will become the best. From there, I went on to Wales, Cardiff, and I trained with the #1 hurdler, again, in my opinion, in history. He was a technician. I couldn't even lace up his shoes. But again, by being around him, training with him and his coach, I went from being, mediocre to winning the Olympics. So it's so important to build that community, have people around you who know what they're doing, who've been there, who've done that. Like, it's not just, I didn't just want to go. There's lots of coaches over here who say, oh, I can get you there. Like, what have you done? Who have you got? That's why I love watching these guys on Instagram now. I go on there just for the, I go on there for comedy, just to watch a show rather than watch Netflix. Some of these trainers, and especially I love these 20-year-old girls, and they're always taking pictures like this of their ass. Well, you know what? You're 20. If your ass isn't up there, you shouldn't be on Instagram. I mean, do those pictures when you're 60. Stop dragging it along the ground and see if it's still up by your back, okay? 20-year-old girls, like, oh, never mind. I won't even start. We'll get into that another time. It just kills me. Surround yourself with the best you can find, with most accomplished, and with the most passionate. So we'll leave that for now and move on to, speaking of Karen and me laughing, smiling again. She hates when I don't smile. So anyway, she said, what about artificial sugars? Okay, so we've talked a little bit about sugar. We've talked a little bit about fats. And the other thing about, before we move on to it's Tuesday, I should be able to speak by now. I know I talk really fast too, don't I? I don't know, maybe because I'm a sprinter. Before we move on to artificial sweeteners, let's go back to fats for a second, and the seed oils. They're absolutely like the number one. They're extracted with chemicals, which is because I was going to try to speak French. I can't speak French. Very bad for you. Secondly, they are extremely high in omega-6 or fatty acids, which are extremely inflammatory. And yes, we know inflammation is one of the root causes of most of our modern day diseases. So we used to have a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, omega-3 being the good ones. You get from fish and from olive oil, and well, again, we talked about olive oil, but from olives and avocados and things like that. And omega-6 coming from these seed oils, and even things like chicken, which again, we'll get into, like the white meat, the clean meat. I would never put chicken in my mouth, ever. I'd rather go back to eating steak. Okay, chicken is, that's why I like these bodybuilders with their broccoli and chicken. Yeah, no wonder you're fat. Most of them, not all, 99.999% of bodybuilders, until they cut down for their competitions, are fat. Trust me, I live in gyms, I've seen them. Anyway, there's always a little rant in my speech. So let's go on to, so stay away from those seed oils, anything that's not extra virgin, if it's been sourced correctly, avocados, fatty fish, olives, things like that, okay? Just gonna make you have more inflammation and make you have more disease down the road. Artificial sweeteners, and Karen says, that's a strict no, right? Not always. There's a lot of research on art, and this is funny. I did not plan this, and I did not get this question before I listened to this podcast yesterday morning, and this was before Karen asked the question, from a guy that I really respect. He's a physician from New York, and I know I always rag on physicians, but there are some good ones out there. Not many, but some. And these guys are actually research, like not just peddle drugs. And they'll tell you, in med school, they spend 7 years learning about drugs and about 2 weeks learning about nutrition. So these are the guys that actually care and look and do some research into the things that are going on in the world. This guy, he's an MD from Stanford, a pretty reputable school. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and applied mathematics. So, pretty smart guy. And another guy who I have a lot of respect for in the sugar world is a guy named Dr. Robert Lustig. And he's from New York as well. Graduated from MIT, so I guess he's pretty smart. He has MD from Cornell, again, another semi-reputable establishment. He's got a bunch of I just read. He's got a list of stuff that he's done and is involved with, but I think those first two say it all. MIT and Cornell, pretty good, pretty reputable. Anyway, he's one of the experts in sugar and the difference in sugar. So before we go on to artificial sweeteners, just remember there's a big difference. The worst of the sugars, they're all bad, but the worst of them is fructose. People think, well, fructose comes from fruit. Other sugars get stored in the muscles, as I said yesterday or the day before, whenever it was. Fructose gets stored in the liver, which causes what they called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So a long time ago, they used to think these guys were alcoholics and they hadn't had any alcohol at all. And it's because they had a lot of fructose in their diet. And you want to stay away from fructose like the plague. There's certain fruits that are really high. Berries are the best because they're low. But you know what? They used to, animals eat fruit at the end of the summer to get fat for the winter when they're not gonna get any food. So that should tell you it all right there. Follow Mother Nature, she knows best. Then they turned fruit into this high fructose corn syrup, which is in everything. And it's really, really sweet. It's really, really cheap, and that's why they use it in everything. And it's really, really bad for us. So all sugars are bad, high fructose corn syrup, and fructose being the worst of the natural sweeteners. So when you look at the others. So this podcast I listened to yesterday. So this Peter Attia, MD guy, most of the stuff he talks about is so in depth. It's like, I listened to it 3 or 4 times and I still don't understand what he's talking about. But the gist of it is that number one, with sucrose, it's sacro, like Splenda and all these artificial sweeteners that most people put in their coffee, little blue packets or the pink packets or whatever, although they are bad for you, and everybody says they cause cancer and all these things, there never actually has been any real data to prove that they do that. They got that from giving mice mega doses that we would never consume. So, I would never eat it anyway. They taste disgusting to me, and the possibility they might do that, just not worth it. They taste horrible. And then so people move to more natural ones like stevia. A lot of people use that now. My daughter's diabetic as well, so I know all about stevia, and can't stand it. It tastes horrible. So, so that's one that people use. So out of all the artificial ones, I would, the most natural ones, the ones that are probably the best for you, are stevia being one. Like I said, I can't stand the taste of it. And a new one that's come out, it's relatively new to most people, is monk fruit. And don't even ask me to pronounce the name of the plant it comes from. Lo Huang Han, something like that or other. But I've actually used it when I bake my cookies. Because I do it once in a while. Come on, I'm human. It actually tastes pretty good. It's like 4 times sweeter than sugar, and it has no effect on your blood sugar or insulin. You can get it on Amazon. So monk fruit is the best of the best. Now, the reason I don't promote having sweeteners is because the brain is tricky and it's smart. So you eat monk fruit even, and your cells go, your mouth is like the first part of your digestive system. That's why you have sensors on your tongue. So your brain's going, something sweet's coming. So what does your pancreas do? Increases your insulin because it's preparing. And then your cells don't get any sugar. So they're going like, what happened to the sugar? Pump up some more insulin. It must be out there somewhere. So that your insulin goes up and we're back to insulin resistance again. So there you go, pieces of the puzzle. So that's the reason I don't recommend it too much. But worst comes to worst, if you have to have it, monk fruit. But like I said, you're not really doing yourself any favors because you're gonna just have a slower path to your goal. See you tomorrow.